So as I said, these are the topics that we are going to see. Introduction to servlets. First, we'll go start with introduction to servlet. Servlet is a server-side piece of code that generates dynamic web page. So why dynamic web page? So as I said, the servlets, or when you request when you have a client and the server, when the client want to send some request to the server, and server will give us back the responses, so that every one of us know. But there are two types of things here. There are static web pages and there are dynamic web pages. Static web pages are the web pages that are already been developed, and the dynamic web pages will be developed at the runtime. Okay, so servlet is a server-side piece of code. We'll write a code for a servlet that generates a dynamic web page. Okay, so remember dynamic web page. And the servlet is a web component. Why we are calling it as a web component every time? So component is nothing but, see, servlet. So when you take a word servlet, service, and this let is nothing but a component. So it takes number of components together, and it takes a request from all the clients and it processes it from the server side. It takes the responses and it gives us back as a HTML code. So it's a component, it's a web component, and it is not an application. Servlet is not an application, it's a web component which gives us responses. So it's a part of the web application. Servlet is a specialized Java class. Why we are saying a Java class here? Servlet, when you when you start writing a code using a servlet, we have to start with some classes. So servlet is a main class, where it is a specialized Java class. So well, from that class we have so many subclasses where we use different methods and interfaces to fetch the details, to fetch the page as a response from the server. So it produces the dynamic web pages, and it contains the Java code as well as the HTML code. So we know for every website we have a presentation logic, we have a business logic. Presentation logic is nothing but where your website page, how it is visible to the users. So that is the presentation. So what should be its color, what should whether we have to include the images or the tables and all. So that is a presentation. And what is the size of your table, what is the height and what is the width, and how much window size, how much should be the window size. And so all those comes under the presentation logic. So business logic is where when you click, when you suppose if you have every one of us know what is a registration form, right? So when you click on the registration form, it directly the data which the users is giving, so it will directly saved into your database. So this is where it is helping to store the data with the help of some background logic. So that's some business logic we call it. So that is nothing but the Java code. So servlet is written in Java only. So don't bother, as every one of us are well known with the Java. So you can come out of this servlet also. So it contains the Java code as well as HTML. So HTML, I suppose you all have covered your HTML from your first unit. So hypertext markup language, where HTML is a basic for every presentation. So you can present your web page, but the presentation of your web page can be based on this HTML. So you can write a HTML code for that. And then commonly used with HTTP protocol. We have a HTTP servlet. So what is this HTTP? HTTP is a hypertext transfer protocol which sends the request to the server from the client, and also which fetches the responses from the server to the client. Okay, so client will send its request to the server using HTTP. In the same way, the server will send its responses to the client using this HTTP hypertext transfer protocol, where it navigates from one page to another. So that is called as a HTTP servlet. HTTP servlet is a basic servlet interface that we use uh, from the Java in the servlet classes. And servlets make use of Java standard extension classes in the packages Java X.Servlet. So when you want to use this HTTP servlet in your servlet code, so we have to import certain packages. And one of the main important packages is Java X.Servlet. And as we are using HTTP protocol, that is hypertext transfer protocol, we also use this Java X.Servlet.http package. So these are the two Java standard extension packages that we have to include for extending our classes. So hope you understood what is a servlet. Then as we move on, we have a web container. Web container is nothing but when a servlet is used for generating a dynamic web page, we have a web container. It is a server software written in Java according to servlets and JSP specifications. So JSP is a Java server page. After servlets, we will see what is a JSP also. So it is a server software written in Java according to servlet specifications. So a web container has three modules. What are they? So can you see here? You have a web server, you have servlet engine and JSP engine. So these are the three different containers you have. Whereas these three lie in between your client and the server. When a client is requesting the server, you have it takes help of these three web containers as three modules to interact with each other. Okay, so this is how the servlet is worked. So let us see, let us go through this diagram. So you have a client here. So this is the client which is requesting the web server. Web server finds the servlet. Servlet is where we are writing the code and it builds the web page and displayed on the web server. So where the web page it is processing here using a servlet, it finds, it processes, fetches the data as a response, and that is sent using as per the HTML only. So we are saying it as a web page. So displayed on the web browser. This phase is nothing but response. So this is a request phase and this processing is done here and the response is sent back to the client. This is how a servlet works. Hope you all understood what is basically a servlet. Thank you.